What's up, my Valyntpreneurs? Welcome back to Valynt Volumes. This is your host and CEO, Dan Spottsville.
And I'm Makayla Mitchell.
And if you are a first-time listener, in this podcast, we talk about entrepreneurship, business, how to just be successful in life. Yeah.
And how to kick ass in life.
See, I was waiting for you to say it.
Oh, come on, man. I was like, did he forget? Is he
No.
toning it down?
Nope.
Guess what?
What?
I'm going to the zoo on Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, you
but
the zoo.
But it's important because it's my sister, not my sister's zoo, but I'm going to see my sister on Friday.
Nice.
And my dad and I are going to spend the weekend with her in St. Louis, Missouri, Chesterfield.
Okay.
But apparently St. Louis has like a pretty cool zoo. It's free. The weather's supposed to be nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be in between 90 and 50, which is like what Dallas is like teetering us with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the zoo first. What are you excited to see at the zoo?
I mean, I like animals.
Wait, can I guess which one's your favorite? Like,
Okay.
at the zoo?
Yeah, wait, like, I don't even know if I have an answer.
I think you're excited to see the penguins.
Wait. Penguins are so stinky. But I don't know if I have a favorite.
Oh, you don't?
I'm trying to think, like, next volume, I'll let y'all know what I like the most.
But you're not going there like, hey, I'm excited to see this type of animal.
Not necessarily. No. My sister's always liked elephants growing up.
Okay.
I love animals. I love marine animals, like probably the most. And so I've always had this like love-hate relationship with zoos and aquariums because like, are they in the best care they should be in? But also like in some scenarios, like they can be more taken care of because they might be an extinct species. Yada, yada. This isn't a zoo podcast, but I'm excited about the zoo and especially just to see my sister. I literally have a notes tab on my phone of St. Louis talking points so that like I didn't just text her and my dad like information I want to share with them. Like I want to update them like in person. And so
that's cool. Well, if you want to adopt a bear, let me know.
Adopt a bear?
I have a bear.
Okay, wait, what? Like, can you please explain?
Luna's
a bear. Your dog.
Yeah, she looks like a bear.
How much does she weigh?
Probably like 100 pounds now. She's a Bernese Mountain Dog, so like she's heavy. Yeah, but if you want a bear, let me know.
No, thank you. You can keep that one.
Got it.
Did you know that you can? So you know how they have like you can like adopt a giraffe or something, and like every month you contribute so much money, and like this giraffe. Oh yeah,
like on TV.
Yeah, so they have. I've seen ads on like TikTok or Instagram before that talk about if you donate $5, they'll donate or you can have a cricket in your ex's name or something like that, and they'll like feed it to another animal.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I've come across those.
People will run ads for anything.
They will.
So
that's how you grow your business. Run ads.
Do you have any interesting news about animals, or you want to just dive right in?
Let's just dive right in. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a kind of mixture between some questions and some different topics that I wanted us to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Do you want to start with one or the other?
No, let's talk about topics.
Okay. One thing that's come up a lot between the two of us, I mean, honestly, over the last couple of years, I think it would just be cool to dive into, is there's a lot of times when it comes up, like, what's the worst that could happen? The person you ask the question to just says no, right? Like, so more specifically, like, do you want a promotion at your job? Do you want a raise? Do you want your food to be warmer at a restaurant? Just ask, right? There's all these different scenarios where it's like, it's just so simple to just ask, what's the worst that could happen? They say no.
Yeah, people miss out on life, man. That's a good thing that you're bringing up today. People miss out on life opportunities and making themselves happier by just not asking because they're afraid. I mean, I've known people. Look, I kind of started on this side. You may not believe me, but it's true.
Okay.
Like I've started on the side of like, man, I was too shy to ask for certain things. And look, life will not give you anything. like I've just learned at this age, like I've learned if you want something in life, whether like your food is like just not warm enough and you want to ask your server like, hey, can you warm this up real quick in a very nice, polite way?
Yeah.
You got to ask to get what you want in life. And that's no different in business. That's no different in your partner. Like, you know, if you're dating somebody, it's no different in a business partnership, you know, like recently, which we can get into a little bit later, but man, so many people miss out on life and lose and don't get what they want in life for the simple fact that they just don't ask.
Yeah.
And I can give you 1,000 examples.
Before you do that, I just want to drive away the point that's like, in the most simplest way, like I view the world, like everyone views the world in the most realist way possible, because it's like you feel like the main character, right, of your life, right? Everyone has that. So like if you don't ask, you can't always assume that like your partner, your business, or like more intimate relationship knows what you're thinking. You have to ask, bring it up. So like the same goes for all of that. Everyone is the main character of their own life. They're not always thinking about you, and it's not always a bad thing to bring it up. You want it bad enough, bring it to someone's attention. So like, what specific examples can you provide of that making a difference in your life?
About asking?
Yeah, unless there's a different way you wanted to navigate this.
No, I could put it in our agency real quick. So like asking our current clients and partners for a onboard fee.
Oh, I remember that.
Because when we used to, like, you know, this is just like 2 years ago, we would do a lot of work up front, but then we never asked for a onboard fee. So like we missed out on, I can tell you the first 4 years of Valynt Digital, we probably missed out on 6 figures in revenue just for the fact that we didn't ask for an onboard fee.
Yeah. I literally remember the specific person who brought that to our attention, and it was brought to our attention because he just asked, hey, what is the difference between month 1 when you're doing all this work to build the campaign and month 2 when I'm paying the same amount, but the campaign is live? And we're like, oh, well, we can explain it to you out our wazoo. Like, it's very clear to us what the difference is, but it wasn't clear to them what the difference is. And because of that, we further defined it for them, and also made it very clear when people work with us why they pay a certain amount at different times in their relationship. And
it makes total sense for us to have an onboard fee, but that's one example, right? The other example is, I think in this scenario for us, asking certain people to be on the podcast. Like, obviously, like, you know, when you ask these things, like, you could be somewhat delusional. So there's a fine line of being delusional and asking for something outrageous versus like asking somebody for something, right? And that delusional line, I can't define that for anybody because I'm not going to, because I think I have some crazy ideas that I've done in the past and that's actually worked just because I've asked, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could give you like minor examples. It's like for kids, for example, you know, like my niece, she'll ask for everything. Like she doesn't really hesitate. So like she kind of gets what she wants in life, because kids tend to not think about the consequences and or like
someone's gonna judge you for asking or something.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like not asking comes from like lack of confidence. It comes from overthinking. But again, like I think it just goes back to like, if you don't ask for something, if you're in sales, if you don't ask for the sale, I've come across so many people that would try to sell me on a software, that'll try to sell me on their product or service, but never ask me for the sale. And sometimes I have to be like, hey, I'm sold on your service or / product. Like, tell me how much it is. Like, so they just,
where do I pay?
Yeah. They're so afraid to ask for the sale. And I can tell you, Jagger's not afraid.
Yeah.
Jagger's our sales person. If you don't know who he is,
there is a very specific situation for myself where I asked and I first was told no. It was when I was in college. There was a bar that I frequented. It was like my Cheers, right? Like the hometown bar that everyone knows your name. And I went there a lot with my friends. And there was one day I was sitting down and one of the main bartenders was moving to Colorado. This was a place where the bartenders were all maybe 30 and over. They'd all worked there for a minimum of 5 years. Like, it was a very exclusive kind of place, you would say, for a dive bar. And I was sitting at the bar one day and asked the manager, hey, I know so-and-so's heading out. Can I work here? Like, I have experience. I have time. I'll work any shift. And he said, no. Like, number one, you're 21 years old. Like, you're fairly new into the bar industry, but the truth is I'd been bartending since I was 18. I didn't know all the regulars, but I was building relationships as I was a regular there. And he said, look, there's a lot of bartenders here who want more shifts. We're going to just give more shifts out. And I said, oh, okay. Didn't hurt to ask, right? Yeah. I still kept coming there over that winter. And I remember one day the bartender, the same one I talked to, pulls me aside. Hey, I need to talk to you over here. And at the time, I'm like, oh, shit, what did I do? Like, I don't remember getting too drunk. Like, did I mess up? And he says, do you still want that job? And I was, of course I want that job, you know? And he's like, it's only one shift, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's all I want. I'm finishing my college degree right now. I only have time for just a shift, and I would love to work here. And so it was one of my favorite places that I worked at, just because I built a relationship with the bar regulars. So once I stood behind the bar, it wasn't like I was a new face. It was just, I was in a new task I had to do instead of just hanging out. I was working, but I would never have gotten that opportunity if I didn't just ask. And I ended up being like the youngest bartender ever hired there. And I don't know, it was cool. But
that's a great example, I think. And that, I think, is the example that people need to hear. Like, man, if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I'll give you, because that triggered a thought for me. I'll tell you this. When I first started Valynt Digital, like, you know, it was called Lift Media, like a little over 7 years ago. And I had a client that I was working with, and this is like 90 days in. And I was like, man, like, these could be the people that could give me the money potentially, because they see the value that I'm bringing to their company to potentially like give me the money to make this thing grow. So you know, and to what I was saying earlier, I was like, man, I started overthinking things like, what if I lose them as a client because I'm asking for too much? Or like, what if, you know, they say no and like, oh, we don't want to work with you anymore, that sort of thing. So like I had all these negative thoughts that came to mind. But despite that, I passed that through my mental space. And I asked Mr. T, I was like, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. I need funding. Would you be open to partnering up with me if I give you some equity in my business? And the answer was, yeah, let's do it. Let's figure it out. And then I ended up giving up 60% of my equity to get funding. But that funding was probably like close to like $200K. And this was like 6 years ago. Like across a period of time, I probably got like $200,000 in about a 13-month period to be able to hire people. And I learned a lot. And that money didn't go to waste, but like, you know, I didn't use the funds properly like I should. I would use it completely differently now if I got $200,000. But at the time I got the funding that I needed, I was able to hire people. So by me just asking like my client, like, hey, would you be open to, you know, being a business partner with me? And I didn't know anything. Like there was so much I didn't know like 7, 8 years ago. But I had the balls to ask. And I think that was a key point for me with Valynt Digital. Well, that's what led to Lift Media turning into Valynt Digital. So that's yeah. Ask if you want something, ask for it.
Yeah. Since you brought up that story, there's actually a question that a Valyntpreneur had shared with us.
Okay.
They're a newer business owner, and they're in the like 100 to 500,000 range for their business. And they were asking a question of like, what do you specifically see that business owners in that type of range of their business are typically missing, or just like not executing on well to get to that next level?
Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah, I certainly can. But let me preface it with this. Like most of the time, like within the business world, I think just depending, like at least within my little world that I live in, when you hit $1 million in revenue, that means that you have a very sustainable business model. That means like you have a product or service that people probably want. And it's an indication for investors and other people around you that can help you take the business to the next level, that, hey, this business has the potential to go to like 5, 3, 5, 10, $100 million, right? But you got to be able to hit the first, you know, like, I don't know if you've ever heard this, like your first million is the hardest million to hit, like in business. Like, have you ever heard that?
No.
Kind of like saying, yeah, there's a saying in the business world that's saying like the first million is the hardest part to get to.
Really?
Because once you have $1 million, because you can't get to $1 million without certain things in place within your business. And it's also a huge indicator of what I just mentioned. Like it has the potential to scale higher, because it's hard for business owners to remember the stat. And I'll show this again. Out of every 1 million businesses that start, only 0.45%, 4,500 businesses last over 5 years, make over $1 million, and makes a profit on that million. So half of 1%. So like when you hit $1 million, that means you have a much more higher success rate to take it to the next level.
Is that percentage of businesses that do all three?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
But it's still hard to hit $1 million.
Yeah.
In revenue, like gross revenue a year for a business. But all that said, like rewinding back, if you're a business, as a Valyntpreneur, you're doing like 100,000 to like 500,000, that means you're seeing some success, right? Because no business does like $500,000 or even 250,000 without something going right. So like maybe your sales is right. Or maybe your sales is kind of lackluster, but like when you do get a client, like you're able to like keep them. Or like maybe you've if you're selling a product, like you found a way to sell your product to the people in your city, but then you haven't like figured out how to sell it to the entire state that you live in. Do you see what I'm saying? So like there's these issues. But most of the time when you're, as a Valyntpreneur, if you're doing about 100,000 to 500,000 in revenue, there's a couple key areas that I would focus on. Obviously, I'm going to exclude tech industries, but one, I find that most companies within the 100,000 to 500,000 annual range, they don't have the right technologies implemented in their business and being part of their like standard operating procedure model. So what I mean by that is, for example, like a lot of businesses doing under $500,000, they're not using technology for like automations, for example. So like maybe their salespeople that are doing outreach is manually connecting with people on LinkedIn and not using a software. So like their salespeople are spending 20 hours a week manually connecting with people on LinkedIn, messaging people on LinkedIn, versus using a software that's out there that could do that to take that 20 hours away so they can focus on conversations and sales. So that's one. So technology, right? Or even like maybe the bookkeeping stuff. They're not using tech and they're using Excel sheets, which is a no. Don't do that.
I can't even imagine.
Or like when they're sending, and this isn't far-fetched because I know this happens. Maybe when they're sending out emails, like their salespeople are sending emails, they're sending one email, per like potential client and not using platforms like MailChimp or all these other email marketing, softwares that are out there. Or their salespeople are using Excel sheets. You'd be surprised how many people use Excel sheets that's in sales and not using like an actual CRM because they're afraid to like, one, they don't know how to use it, and two, they don't want to take the time to learn how to use the technology because they feel like, oh man, for me to learn this technology, it's going to take me 5 hours. So they rather just pound the phone and do phone calls. So I think technologies is one.
What technology have you implemented in 2024 that's helped you like move the business that much further?
I mean, we've always been like a tech driven company because like naturally, like I love technology and I understand it. So like you know me, like I test out like 2 different softwares every single week. I mean, I don't think I've missed it, for quite some time. Luna Automation is one of them. I mean, it's our own software, but that's a software that we're utilizing internally. So, fortunately for us, like we didn't need to do like LinkedIn, like manual connections, like we're using paid advertising, but this is only going to enhance the connection of our sales team to connect with potential partners and clients.
I mean, I'm like having horrible flashbacks to when I was in sales and we used a platform that we found that at the time we thought was just like so amazing because it did allow us to just connect with people who had certain job titles in certain places. But once that connection was made, I was going in and manually doing the next steps.
Yeah.
And I was even like onboarding clients of ours that had like a large team on how to do that. And here's the next steps. And oh my gosh, the amount of time that I spent doing that. But like, we thought it was so revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
But it's something that made us like create, Luna in itself and really like figure out that. So,
yeah. So technology is, I think, one. I think the second thing is most companies have not figured out sales. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you don't know how to sell your stuff, your product or your service, you're never going to go past the 500,000, right? What revenue is tied to what? Sales, which means like your marketing message, you don't have like marketing in place in your business. And I wish I would have done this earlier. Like it seems so, I think ironic is the right word here. We didn't start paid advertising for ourselves till like 2 years ago. And we're a digital marketing agency.
Wait. My eyes just started watering because like I didn't know this.
Yeah, you did it?
No, I don't know why my eyes watered so bad. I think I'm in shock. But
really?
yeah, like what?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago when we started paid advertising. Everything, like we had built a 7-figure agency all through like just like referrals and like, you know, relationships that we built.
Wait, can we twist the dial back a little bit? Because I started 3.5 years ago and I had inbound leads.
Oh, you did?
So maybe,
okay, so maybe it's oh, it's been that long.
But
okay,
but
no,
mine
no,
were
correct
mine
me,
were
yeah.
church referrals. So let's say the capital
No,
raise.
we were running ads. So like we started right around when you started.
And that's probably why you hired me.
That's correct. Yeah, with the yeah, you're right. Yeah, so my timeline's off.
No,
but
it's
yeah.
okay, but like
Okay, so like half of our
sense.
yeah, that's great. Thank you for correcting me. So like the first half of like, you know, we've been in business for 6 years. The first 3 years we didn't run advertising. So then after that, and we've never turned it off, obviously, right? So I know a lot of businesses that can't go past like the over $500,000 mark. They don't have the right sales, like, you know, strategy and process, whether it's because I'm in paid advertising, I just don't know how you get away with growing a company and scaling it without paid advertising, because it's hard for new businesses to have a brand to where people just come, you know what I mean? And social media organic posting is a thing, but the success rate on that is very low. So like, how do you remove the you know, like, hey, I don't know if my social media posting is going to work or not. You just do paid advertising and get in front of people. The whole goal with marketing is just to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of, right? And tell them like, hey, look at me. This is what I bring to the table. Here's this product, or, you know, here's a service that I offer. So like paid advertising just does it at scale. So like if you do social media posting and you can only reach 100 people a day, with paid advertising, for sure you can reach 5,000 people a day. So that's the difference between paid advertising and just, you know, organic reach, especially when you're starting out because you don't have a following.
Is it fair to say that, based on the question of them asking, like, you know, the owners may be missing or not executing on a high level, is it fair to say that the owner, even though they're the owner and they may have created the product or service, they're not always the best salesman for it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I know people that aren't the best salespeople.
What?
They shouldn't be selling for themselves. They should be the operator on the back, and they shouldn't do sales.
But you did sales, right? Early on.
Yeah.
You like sales though.
I actually like talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been doing sales since I was like 18, and at the retail level.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so like I've been used to, you know, just having conversations and understanding what people's needs are, and being able to position a product or service that helps them fix that problem or their challenge that they're having.
Okay, so I have a question, but I want to give context. Mm-hmm. And the question is just generally like, what makes a good salesperson? But the reason I ask that is because I've worked with salespeople before who are really good at closing the deal, but not necessarily on good clients, whether it be like you didn't necessarily want a relationship with that person, mm-hmm. or it was a short-lived one, or like they kind of like swindled them into like almost like a sleazy kind of sales guy. Yeah. So what makes a good salesperson? Because that person may have been closing deals.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good question. So even on the retail side of things, when I was slinging like cell phones and selling cell phones, mm-hmm. I took the approach of like solution oriented selling and education selling. Okay. So which is like when a family member comes in and they're looking for 4 cell phones, right? At the Verizon store or whatever, I'd ask them a lot of questions to understand their lifestyle. Like, hey, how do you use your phone? Tell me how you use it. How do your kids use your phone? Why do you want to get, you know, phone for your kids? So like asking those very open-ended questions, I can sit there and say, okay, well, based on what you're telling me, here's the plans that I think will be a good fit. And here's the phones that'll fit the lifestyles of each and every single one of you. It's simple as that. But most people in sales that are just trying to push products, and by the way, the clients that I sold, the customers, because those are customers to me, the customers that I sold cell phones to, they never really came back. My churn rate was probably less than like 5%. But then there were other people that would sell a bunch of phones, but because they're pushing the latest and greatest cell phone or pushing a higher plan that customers didn't need, customers, 1, would come back upset, or 2, they'll call customer service and return the phone or change the plan and downgrade the plan.
Yeah.
Right. And then their commission was much smaller than mine. So like I was like solution and education selling versus like just pushing a product. So I think there's a difference between those two.
I like how Jagger has added an even more like personal touch to where like he's just taking such good notes like in the CRM system that we use, and like applying that in real time when a sale's happening to just like add in something that's important to that person, whether it be they're a golfer, they're a horse guy, like they maybe they're a veteran, like I mean, you name it. He's bringing up specific things that are important to that person based on what they've shared with him or what he's learned about them through like their business, and like adding it into the pitch. This is exactly how like he's making the story about them. He's tailoring it to them. He's putting what it is that we offer into like a scenario that in their everyday life they'll run into.
Yes.
This is how, as a veteran, it would impact, you know, your XYZ. Here is like offering maybe the Omni PGA Golf Resort of like, hey, when you come to Dallas, here's an exclusive like golf place that you can stay at. Like he's really paying attention to the details so that like it's even more memorable experience like for that person, you know?
Yeah, I think I can expand on that. Okay. So like when I used to sell cell phones, if I can have them picture like, and then let's say like I had a lot of scenarios because this is back in like 2008. A lot of parents didn't get their kids cell phones, right? Or they'll wait till a certain age. But through conversation, I'll say, hey, well, what's important to you? Why are you getting a cell phone? I can easily tie into like, hey, they love their kids. Who doesn't love their kids, right? Well, hey, you should get their kids. And there's a plan that actually applies here. And this way you can keep in touch with your kids when this happens. And so I painted a picture of like, hey, imagine how convenient it is and how you can kind of keep track of your kids. And like, even like, so with Verizon, even back then, when your kid goes out of a certain range, it'll alert your cell phone. So like that was a feature that I sold quite a bit to people, to where I can get their kids a phone. And it was only like, you know, $20 extra or like $30 extra. So it was very minimal for the safety that the parents can feel by their kids having a cell phone. So that's just an example, you know, I mean, I'm painting a picture.
It really plays into like what we preach to our clients, not necessarily our clients, but like we preach it in general about how like an investor will invest in a business for a variety of reasons. It could be because, you know, the investment opportunity is lucrative for them. It diversifies their portfolio. They just like the leadership team. They've always wanted to learn about golf. Like there's so many different reasons. And so for you to listen to someone's personal, like what's important to them and then tailor it to just selling a cell phone for like the safety reason, you just got to highlight what's important to that person on the other end. Because no matter what,
that's correct.
They want to buy the phone. No matter what, they're interested in investing something.
Yeah.
Pick and choose, you know?
Yeah, it's just giving a fuck about the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like, do you actually care about the person that you're talking to? You know, and we preach that to our team. It's no different than how I approach our team members. Hey, what is your goals for this year? And we, you know, how we have them write their goals down, and then I tie their goals down to, which we talked about in a different Valynt volume, how I tie their goals down into the goals of Valynt. Hey, by doing these things, you told me this is your goal. I understand it now. By taking that and then tying it to the goals of the company and how that can be achieved within the Valynt digital umbrella, that's how we're getting team members motivated, and it's coming from a good place. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like I'm not money driven, and I've said this multiple times. Like I'm not money driven. I'm very goal driven and results driven, and want to do fun shit driven.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So like you mentioned the goal book. So you had that conversation with many of the team members at the beginning of the year. How do you keep track like throughout the year if it's still aligned, how the progress is?
Yeah. Every new team member gets a, the Clever Fox like book to be able to write their goals down. But then like within the next 2 weeks, I do have a touch point where we're going to sit down again and be like, all right, well, we talked about your goals this year. How are you coming? You know, how are things going along? Like alongside of what you wrote? Like, are you in line with, are your actions in line with the goals that you have written for yourself this year? Like your personal goals. And again, our team members are not like forced to like share their personal goals. Obviously, like most of the team members, I say like, look, if you share your personal goals with me, whether it's finance, like health, career wise, I can help you get there, because I really can. We have this vessel called Valynt Digital that allows them to operate within that and get to that goal that they're looking to achieve. Whether it's like, I want to take a vacation here, or I want to be able to make this much money so I can do X, Y, Z, so I can take care of my kids, or I can do this, or buy a new car, like whatever that is for our team members. The more I know, the more I can help them get there.
I mean, just like saying it out loud, letting somebody else know adds that level of like accountability. Speak it into existence. It makes it real. It's just like we talked about at the beginning. Like if you want something, ask for it. If you want something to happen, maybe tell someone about it.
Yeah. If you want to know something, ask.
Yeah.
But I do want to point one more point away. So like companies that are doing under 500,000, a lot of operators, and I actually came across this person during an interview process. They had built an agency, right, that was doing well. So like he was doing like, I think like a little over 200,000 a year, kind of like by himself. And I was like, well, why didn't it work out for you? You know, so I just asked the straight up question. I was like, why didn't it work out for you? And he knew why, but I just wanted to understand for myself, like why it didn't work out, because he seemed very competent. He seemed like, you know, like he can operate a business. So the pitfall for him is that as he started to make more money, he changed his lifestyle. So like he got the bigger house, he got the nicer cars. And what he didn't do is what a lot of operators don't do, is reinvest that money as they grow and back into the business. It seems so straightforward, but you can tell a lot about a person when they start to make money, what they do with it, who they are, and why they built the business. So with this person, right, he started buying more things. Like he bought a nicer car. He went into a big house. And at that point, when I talked to him, he was having to downgrade because he lost the clients and he couldn't keep up with the lifestyle that he kind of built. So again, everybody has different goals. I'm not saying like everybody has to build a business or anything, but I think one thing that if you really want to build a business and you're under 500,000 a year, take that money as you start to make more and hire somebody. So like when I started making X amount of money, like in the business over the last couple of years, sometimes I would take a pay cut because I'll take that money, extra money that I was making, and then insert that to hire a new team member. So I would personally take a pay cut. Obviously, I'm not telling that to everybody, right? Like, oh, I'm taking a pay cut. No, I'm just putting it back into the business. So it's okay. As long as my finances are taken care of, I've been doing that for the last 6 years, and look at where we are today. So I think, and that's a hard thing though, as an operator though, when you start to see the money coming in, you get 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 a month. Then you get 100,000 a month. Then you get 200,000 a month. Then you get 3. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're like, well, shit, I can go buy anything I want. Kind of like you start to think that, but you got to be disciplined to be able to take that fund and then put it back and make sure that the way you're using money as a tool and applying it in the way that which it allows you to hit the goals that you have set for yourself.
Where did you learn that from? Mistakes or like how to, like, where did you just learn that concept of like, I'm going to reinvest into my business instead of taking it? Like, I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah,
with that.
It came natural to me because I knew like my goal is already here. Like because you know how I write my goals down every year, right? In order for me to achieve those goals, it requires money. So like if I want to have a team, what does it require? Money. If I want to use a new software, it requires money. If I wanted to get hoodies for the team, it requires money. If I want to, get an office space, it requires money. So I've always, like, all the goals that I have set to build Valynt and anything else I had always required more capital. So like instead of using it personally, because I put Valynt before myself in a lot of scenarios, it was easy for me to put the money back into the business. And then there's one more thing I want to say.
Yeah, no, finish off.
A lot of business owners, although this ties into it, reinvest the money into their business, they're putting the money where it shouldn't go. So for example, if you start to hit the 200, 300,000 a year mark, $500,000, they start to buy things or invest the money the wrong way. So, let's just say you hit 100,000 a year and you're a solopreneur. Then you get to 150. What I've seen this in real life. It's a 2-person team or a 3-person team, and they'll get an office size for like 20 people, which makes no sense, right? Because they want to be able to flaunt. They're like, look, I have a business. I get it, man. Great. Kudos to you for being successful and getting it to $250,000 a year. But you don't need an office space for 20 people when it's only 3 of you or it's only 2 of you, At
least not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, you'll get there, but you got to be smart with your money, right? So like putting the money back and doing that is one thing, but then putting it to the right things is another thing. So like, the other pitfalls are like, instead of putting the money into like sales and marketing, they hire like an operations person. You see what I'm saying? So like if your business is growing.
Operate what?
There you go. Yeah, it seems very like obvious, but like sometimes when you're in a day-to-day, like you don't recognize some of these things. And that's where mentorships become important. So there's another thing I could tell you, like the list goes on and on and on to where like, okay, like invest your money into mentorship versus like having a 20-person office. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things I can tell you here.
How do you even decide? And I feel like
that's why goal setting is important.
No, but how do you even decide as like a business owner how much you make?
That's a great question.
Or like, maybe that's a longer conversation with the time we have left.
But I can make it super short. Like, you should pay yourself to make sure like you're comfortable, meaning like you can pay all your bills, you're paying for food, whatever car you have, your mortgage, all of that, right? But once that's done, sure, keep a small percentage, whatever that percentage is, to do some like leisure stuff, to be able to go out. Maybe you still do go on a trip, right? I'm on the side of like, when you're starting your business, you don't go on trips, but if you do decide to go on a trip, maybe make it 1 or 2 for the year, and have a budget for that. Just have a budget for it.
Go to the free zoo. They're free zoos.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could do that. But in terms of payment, again, I think it ties down to like, what is your goal? Like, there's early on times like I could have paid myself much more than like, even like, I'll give you a real scenario. Okay. So like this year, I've cut my pay back, not because like I have to, it's because I wanted to, and like bring more people on, right? And then have enough to like, when the time is right, to strike and be like, yep, we're gonna go all in, right? And then like quadruple the advertising spend, versus what it's at today. So like, if we're getting 100 leads, we're gonna get 400 leads a month. But like, that's what the team is like, prepping for. They know this. Like, the team knows, like, that's what they're prepping for now. This is like, yes, we're generating results and we're doing like fucking phenomenal work for our clients, but I mean, they're prepping for that. So like, I personally have taken less, and look, my bills are paid, and look, well, I'm in a little bit different scenario too, because like I have side hustles, consulting things that I do, and I get paid anyway. So like, I don't need the money from Valynt really. So like, I just put it all the way back in. But I say pay yourself enough, and then make sure you have enough to live comfortably. But everything else, like, don't buy the extra stuff. I think Gary Vee talks about it quite a bit. Just don't buy the extra stuff.
Until when? What if you really want the car?
Well, then buy it. But like, with that decision just comes like, hey, just, if you take a car note that's $750 a month, that's $750. Instead of you driving your 8-year-old car, you decide to get a new car for $750 a month, and it's a 2024. That's great. Happy for you. If that makes you happy, great. And I think you're going to have 2 people. One side of the coin is going to say, well, great. It should motivate you more to like work harder. Yeah. And I think the other side is that $750 could have been to marketing, which gets you like 3 more sales a month. And within 6 months, you could have, a 25% increase in your revenue. So there is no right or wrong way. Right. The answer is there is no right or wrong way. You decide what's important to you and do what's right for your business.
Yeah. We live in such a world of like instant gratification and like treat yourself that like, I can see that being a difficult decision for like new business owners to like try to like navigate. So I appreciate you sharing that insight.
Yeah, it is hard, especially when you start to see the money in the bank account.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard not to well, there's a trend that we're talking, like I said, trend, a conversation we have, like I'm Discount Dan. Like I got this.
Discount Dan sounds crazy because it's when you say that, my interpretation is like when there's that B version of a celebrity or something, it's somebody who looks like them but just not as great. So that's what you're the discounted Dan. But explain yourself.
I'm like this little bomber jacket. I got it for 50% off. That's all I'm saying. Like I still look for sales. Who doesn't? I
mean, this is from Uptown Cheapskate, which I am really happy that Emilio and Caroline told me about.
Yeah.
So I mean, resale store, like why not?
Like I think like when you get to like the couple $1 million a year mark, like certain people start to dress a certain way and they start to drive a certain type of car. Look, again, you earned it. You spend it however you want to, I think is my thing.
Okay.
I spend it differently than other people would.
And thank you for spending your time with us.
Yeah, there you go.
Anything else you want to add before we close out today's volume?
No, I feel like I just went on a rant for 20 minutes, but
I mean, you expanded a lot on a question that a Valiantpreneur asked. So I think like no matter what they were expecting or hoping to hear from you, like you definitely touched a bunch of different like angles from that. So
yeah, so many things, and there's more. Like if you're doing less than $500,000, there's so many more things I could share with you. Like you should get involved in the chamber at an early start. I wish I would have done that for this agency. Finding the right partner, negotiating the right structure if you're going to insert another partner to get capital. Like the list and the conversation goes on and on and on, because these are all mistakes, and some worked out well.
Yeah.
You know, some didn't. But like, there's so many things that I can share with people when it comes to, like, if you're doing under $500,000, I can coach you to get to 7 figures. Because once you get to 7 figures, this is the last point I'll make. Yeah. Once you get to a couple $1 million a year, most businesses encounter the same problem. It's like, hey, I don't have the right sales process in place for my service or product. I don't have the right team members, you know, in place to be able to execute on what I've created. You know, I don't have a SOP. My accounting is bad. You know, I'm not doing my taxes properly. You know, I mean, there's so many different things, but it's usually, there's like 10 common things within a business that you got to fix. And if you fix it, it gets it to, you know, a couple $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if there's some other topics that the Valyntpreneurs want to hear your opinion about, or some questions they have for us on a different topic, guests they want us to have on the show, leave us a comment below the video or email us at hello@valyntdigital.com.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Yep. Appreciate you tuning in.